evolves into something. And if you're good and you really let your heart guide you, it becomes more. And that's why there's so many different styles of street. That's why there's popping, there's locking, there's breaking, there's crumping, there's hip hop, there's house. There's all these different dances. And if you line them up, you really can see the difference of all of them. But yet you can also see the influence of all of them in each one. That's what makes it street. That's what makes us who we are. And even though we have the training with the classes and all that, I still say ballet and jazz and tap in its true form is the most difficult, disciplined dance ever, because you don't have a lot of freedom. You have to look a certain way. It has to be done a certain way. Us, we want it to be a certain way, but we have that other side where we have the freedom to freestyle it and make it a part of who we are, even though there is discipline there. But a lot of kids don't realize that. They just think you learn and you jump and steps. But the few that do know, that really study hard like a ballerina or a jazz or a tap dancer, when you get that discipline down and you get that root and the foundation of where it really came from, it makes you more powerful in the long run, because you're becoming something else of who you are, not just doing steps and mimicking. So to me, it all falls in line. If we weren't there, I don't know if there would be hip hop. Because to me, I look at the hip hop that I know of hip hop, and it's a dance. But there's a hip hop culture with music and all that, and that I can't talk about because I'm not sure about that. But for the dance, I think you got to have us all part of that. We all gave an influence of it.
Okay, can you help us to understand the year that you met the Lockers and started to learn the locking dancing?
Yeah.
And from that point in time, when did you become interested in whacking and why?
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting because remember I told you in my growing up, the salsa, the 60s, the jazz, the little street jazz at the time they called it, which is their name back then, and the soul steps, the partner dancing. And then when I got into locking, the 74, I was already doing the tricks, but I didn't know the dance. I just knew they did splits and knee drops and things like that. And they pointed their hands. I didn't quite know what the lock was. So when I started learning that, it was 1974. And within a year, because it was every day, you have to understand, that's where that discipline comes in. We're not like the jazz and ballet in the studio, but we're in the club and we're at home practicing every day. So at home, going out to the club, entering the contest, and even after the contest in restaurants, on our way, dancing in the parking lot, 24/7, every single day. That I learned the locking within that year. Now understand, there's other dances in there. There was the robot, which I also got involved in because I love Shields and Yarnell and I got to meet them. And I loved doing that style when the locking was there. And Slim the robot was an incredible robot, and he gave me his story about who he learned from, and I'm kind of bad with some names back then because we're talking, 74. So by 75, in the middle of 75 is, I'm sorry, let me go back. The end of 74, I want to say, is when I saw these guys doing a dance in a club that was a straight club, and they were gay, and they were doing a dance, and it wasn't called whacking at the time. It was more punking. They were doing this dance and they were winning, and they were really good. But the thing that caught my attention was the music, the way they brought the music to life, their attitude and the feeling. It was a whole other dance. At the same time, after I started learning it, I felt, because I knew locking first, it made me more powerful for what that dance was. Once again, the vein of the locking ran into the whacking, for me, personally. So when I saw them in 74, I went to Tony and I said, there's this group of people, because I had met Tony and all them in 74, and she said, I know who you're talking about, and she took me to the club that they were at. And when I saw them in the club, just the club itself, first of all, gay club, play the best music. Everybody's got rhythm, everybody moves well. But these group of guys that were in the contest, when she said, here they are, and she was introducing me to them and stuff, They had something else going on. And it felt like the Lockers again. When I walked into that Grand Hotel Club in Orange County and I saw the Lockers for the first time, same thing happened to me with the Whackers. But it was punking and posing back then. Not even that. It was just their lifestyle. And I thought, wow, I stumbled upon something again. And the interesting part is not all of them went to the straight clubs. It was Tinker, Andrew, Arthur, Lonnie, and Billy Goodson, and a couple other people, I can't remember the names, that actually entered in a straight contest. And when people asked them, what is that you're doing? What is that dance you're doing? God dang, it's phenomenal. The music and the way you guys are dressed. And, oh, we're just punking, punk, whack, whack, pose, whack, whack. And they would just describe it. But then later on I found out that they didn't really want to be called punks in straight world because that wasn't a good word. So they liked the word whacking that was starting to take over a little bit more because that sounded more dance. But when I went to their club and hung out with them, just like I did the Lockers, it wasn't, oh, we're going to whack tonight or we're going to punk tonight. It was just about dancing. It was just about expressing who they were. It was about being themselves, because back then they couldn't walk the streets and show who they were because they were gay, and it was not, the best thing in the 70s. It was very difficult. So when I got to meet them, they really didn't like that I was the straight girl in their club, and there was things that happened, and then when they started to realize, and I was bugging them enough, and I kept talking to them, and I would ask them questions like, what are you feeling there? What made you feel that made you do that move? And they realized I was going a little deeper than just the dance. I told them I wanted to know about them, because each one of them had something different, just like the Lockers. Each one of those Lockers lock their way, but they're all influenced with each other. So they can do things together, but they can also be very separate, but yet you see the dance is right there. The Whackers were the same way. It was very interesting to me. Same structure in that sense. Andrew didn't like doing certain moves, but he could do them. But he didn't like doing them. He had his own form of what he did. They all had their own little clique of style, even though they all collectively could do things together and did their routines or whatever if they had to, if they were working together, because Tony used them a lot in live performances and stuff. And it was beautiful to see another form of something that was very clear that there was a specific dance there. And they're once again creating it before my eyes. So I was really lucky when it came down to the dance, because I got to be there with the original Lockers. I got to be there with the original Whackers. And once I got into that and they started teaching me, literally teaching me and explaining to me and showing me and giving me homework and really working with me and becoming friends with me, like the Lockers did, even a little deeper with the Whackers, because they really explained with photos and movies and, detailed of what they were feeling and what kind of night they were having and their mood swings and who they were as people, that I really got into that because it was very emotional. And I'm an emotional person anyway, so for me it was perfect. And the punking was even more intriguing for me because you had to really connect to something real, and I love that. So that's how that came about. Now in between, right towards the end of that, was popping for me. Once again, I got to meet the Electric Boogaloos, which is a group of guys that did a little bit of locking, but they did this other dance, which is the popping with the boogaloo, and many names they have now for the different things that they use with the dance. But I got to meet them, and when I met them, once again, it's this group of people that came out, and I hadn't seen anything like it. And I got to meet them. So Pop and Pete taught me how to pop.
What year was that? Excuse me.
What year? I want to say 77.
Okay.
Okay. And sometimes I get later on a little mixed up because my birthday's at the end of the year. So I'm 15, but my birthday is at the end. So if something runs in the end, sometimes I kind of go, the end of 76, beginning of 77, that kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure it was 77 for me.